What's up, guys? Welcome to the In the Blind podcast. Today we have Mr. Michael Ray in the house hanging out with us, country music singer, superstar, Mr. Extraordinaire.
Thank you.
Glad to have you, bro. It's been a minute. Appreciate you coming in and hanging out with us.
Man, me and Eric and Steven and Trent Thomason do this like acoustic run. Now it's like the kickoff of our year. It seems like it became a tradition. And he was telling me that y'all were starting it, and I'm stoked, man. It all looks great.
I appreciate it, man.
Thank you.
Eric is, he's been a big impact to me over these last several months, and I'm very fortunate to have him as a partner. And creative mind for sure, man.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
really, really good at seeing things that old dumb redneck like myself that I don't see. So yeah, grateful to have him and all of his connections too. I know me and you have a pretty good relationship, and I know you guys have known each other for years and are pretty tight. And it's pretty cool to get to come in here and sit down with some of you guys and tell some of our stories and
man.
some of the ones we can't. There's definitely some we can't tell, but it's definitely fun to get to sit down with you guys. And I know you're a real dude, and you are who you are, and it's cool to get to show that to people. And it's been fun. It's definitely been a good little run so far.
Yeah, thanks, man.
One thing I've always appreciated about you is just you tell it how it is. And, I think in this business, like especially when we got into it, it's like go through media training and you're taught what you can talk about and what you can't. And I think there comes a certain point where you just kind of have had enough and just want to be real. And I think you, more so than most artists, are just very honest and raw and real. And I think that's probably why you've been as successful as you have been. So
I appreciate that, man. Yeah, my dad was just up here hanging out, and that's just the guys I was raised around. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I learned right before I did radio tour, I realized I probably wasn't saying something right because I had to do an actual act like I was at a radio station visit, but with like all the Warner people that have been helping me. And I didn't see too many other artists do that. And I was like, oh, maybe that was the media training.
They're trying to train me right now.
Like, we're going to need to bring the backup in.
Yeah.
But no, man, I just think I think it's good just to be real. And what I've learned is there's times where I wasn't. I think in this business you can really try to hide the human side of who you are, because you always have to be on or whatever. And so it's very easy for your mind to kind of go into that zone, right? To where you're just kind of going through the motions and trends come and go. That's why they're trends. But in the entertainment world, it's like a trend can change the trajectory of everything, depending on how big it is,
Yeah.
So then sometimes you get lost chasing that. And then you don't want to show like I said, the real human side of you. So you kind of always act cool and always do your thing. But then people don't really see the inside. But you don't realize that God gave you this platform, especially as men in a world where men aren't really valued a lot, and also not really raised to say anything. It's like shut up, strap your boots on, go to work. And there is a mentality to that helps. But one thing throughout the year, especially the last 6 months of a big spiritual and health journey I've been on, what I learned is God gave us this platform, right, to reach out for that person through music that might not know the words to say, or that might just need to know there's somebody else, whether they like your music or not. If they, and which is great about podcasts, it's like you don't really get to know an artist when they're like, all right, hey, welcome to the station. You got 60 seconds. Tell us something about yourself. And you're like,
and all that stuff's predetermined, it's scripted, exactly what you're supposed to say to that.
Right, yeah.
It's pretty broad. I mean, we can talk about whatever the heck we want, and
which I think is really helping people get to know the artists, actors, you know what I mean? It's like podcasts have taken over media, dude. I mean, the hit that regular media is taken because of podcasts, because it's real. There's nobody, there's not a bot thing telling y'all what to say or how to do it.
We got podcasters with White House press passes now.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
It is
what a world.
Thing,
what a world,
To piggyback off what you were saying, I think when we were on Lyric Street, which was owned by Disney, and then even Sony, the media training and stuff, it was more designed to protect their brand, not to protect us as the artists.
Yeah.
So we were not being ourselves, not being open and honest, thinking, oh, this is protecting our brand and, Love and Theft or Michael Ray, but it was really to protect the mouse at Disney and to protect Sony, what they had built. So I think you start to realize that they don't necessarily have your best interest in mind by telling you what you can and can't say. It's they're trying to protect themselves.
No, because your fans are going to look for your authenticity. So when they see you out there spitting out lines, they're like, like, I mean,
and every radio interview ends up sounding the same. And you kind of learn, if you have this canned thing, you go in there and do it. And, you kind of need to be consistent also. So it's consistent across all the different stations and whatnot.
What's interesting to me, though, is that I think, and maybe I'm wrong, 99% of people, when they turn on the radio and they hear somebody talking, they change the station.
Yeah.
So why in the hell would you ever think that works? Like, you're literally what everyone who's on the radio is running from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I never looked at it like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess because for the longest time, that was the only
way to get.
That was the only avenue.
Yeah, because back then podcasts didn't really exist.
There were no podcasts.
No streaming, no social media.
There was no social media, so it was, which is kind of crazy. Like yesterday when we went to dinner with David Bryan, who plays in Bon Jovi and started Bon Jovi with John, we were talking about like the pros and cons of social media, because there's good that it comes with it, right? And I believe that it was started for good, and then typical, humans get in touch of it, and then it's
we make everything evil,
insane, But like one of the bad things is like it 100% took away the fourth wall, where like when you look at those dudes like Bon Jovi guys, Motley Crue. Well, Motley Crue was crazy, everybody knew that, but it was like. You got to make them this rock star, right? Because you didn't know that, every day he goes for a 2-mile run and eats egg whites. And, and like, you don't know.
Right.
You didn't know what he did on his off time, right? So in your mind, as the kid in the audience that just wants to get away from life and trying to figure themselves out, or the husband and wife that been working a bunch and that was their one night to get away, they want to get lost. They got lost in those characters, right?
Yeah.
And then, but now it's like we've let everybody in so far that it can't ever go back, obviously, but that's like the sad part of it to me is like, who's that going to be? Yeah. I'm sure it will be somebody at some point, you know what I mean? Things turn around, there'll be somebody, but I just feel like it really, when I first saw Kenny Chesney or Garth Brooks when I was a teenager, like there was no social media. So like the hype to see Kenny pop up or Garth pop up, you know what I mean? Like it was, the place was on fire.
Yeah, I had no idea how liberal Garth Brooks was. Which was a great thing.
But their superstardom, their fame is in your mind, so you get to build them up to be whatever you want. And now that mystery is gone.
Yeah. You're like, this dude drives a caravan and drops his kids off at school.
Yeah, and some people, I guess, that makes them more relatable. But then at the same time, like Motley Crue, for example, it's like those guys were the ultimate rock stars.
Oh,
and, like, everyone thought, like, these guys are at 100 all the time, and then you don't realize, he's actually eating avocado toast and on a keto diet now. I mean, not that they were back then, but they may have been.
Which is a great thing.
It went from keto to heroin to keto. This is great switch. It's really good for you.
But I definitely agree. It's that fourth wall is completely gone.
I don't know, that kind of like suspense that you get from as a fan, like now we give so much, which is cool in a lot of ways, you know what I mean? Because you do get to relate more, and I do think people are buying the person now more than just the song, and definitely ever before. So those things are cool, but it's like, man, there's something too about not knowing, like not really. There was that mystique.
Or like Elvis, he was a character. So what you saw in like his movies and stuff, like that's what you thought this guy is all about. Yeah. And then come to find out that, like you're saying, he drives a Dodge Caravan.
Yeah. He's a normal dude.
You know what I mean? Like, the same way everyone else does. Where sometimes you don't even want to think about someone like that, someone that you idolize on that level, because now they're more human, and there's something cool about them being, just a superhuman rock star.
Yeah, there's people that I know that they're like, hey man, if you ever get a chance to like meet so and so and I'm around, I don't want to meet them.
Yeah.
I'm like, why? They're like, because I just think that they're up here and I don't want to know any different. I want to.
Absolutely. I
always heard that. Don't meet your heroes.
But
I have an experience like that as a kid. I was a big Jose Canseco fan when I was a kid. I don't know if I've told you this story before, but my dad used to take me to spring training baseball. We didn't have a baseball team in Nashville, so he'd go down there to go down to Florida every year for spring training. And he let me tag along, and I would go down there and get autographs. And, like you can really talk to the players. They're a lot more candid during spring training. You have a lot more access, or back then you did. I don't know what it's like these days. but I had the Bash Brothers. You know, this is when Canseco was with Oakland, so I had like posters all over my room. And dude, I had a baseball. It was raining, and it was after spring training game. And I waited for all the players to come out of the locker room. Canseco's got a Ferrari in the parking lot. And my dad knew it was his Ferrari. So he's like, we'll just wait. He's going to come right here. And so I walk up to him, and I'm like, I think I was like 7. And I'm like, Mr. Canseco, I'm my favorite player. Would you please sign my baseball? And he looked at me, and he rolled his eyes, and he said, fuck off, kid. And I was like... I'm no like way. Standing in the rain, bro, with a baseball in my hand. My dad, like, you know, 25 yards behind me in a parking lot. Damn. And like I had to walk back to my dad in tears. And dude, I went home, ripped every poster down. Yeah. And honestly, like, fuck Jose Canseco from 7 years old till now. If he sees this, fuck you. Like you fucking shit on a little kid, bro. Like and I get that there are parents out or people out there with their kids to get autographs so they can sell them. Yeah. Bro, that wasn't the case in this situation. So you were wrong if that's what you thought. Like, I just really liked you. Yeah. Now I really don't. Yeah. So, bro. Like, wish I hadn't have met the guy because. You know, I had some really lofty, you know, ideas of who I thought he was. And then I was very disappointed, you know, and especially as a kid, you know.
And in the rain, I mean, it was set up. It was set up for Garth just to start playing. Looking back.
Literally, dude. Literally. But, you know, that's the other thing is like, you know, as an adult now, I realize that I can't expect all of our idols to be good people as well. Yeah. Some of them just aren't. Yeah. I mean, I've had the privilege of meeting a lot of famous people, and most of them are great. Yeah. There's definitely a few that you're like, man, don't got nothing for that guy. Don't want to talk to him, don't care to meet him, don't care to be around him. Sure. There's a few of those, you know, and it's sad because they're very blessed, you know. It's like, hey, man, you're a very blessed individual. Maybe you could put some of that energy back out into the world instead of this negative bullshit that you always have around you.
Yeah. That's one good thing about country music, I think. And, I mean, most of the artists realize that you can't do it without the fans. And I think Garth was a great example of, you know, treating the fans the way you would want to be treated. And I think the people that have taken a page out of that playbook, I mean, Taylor Swift was great at it too, early on in her career, just really giving the fans what they want, which is access. But then also, back then there was still a little bit of that mystery, but I think two of them in particular just played that game very well.
Yeah. I mean, I think too, that's why, like, you have artists of the 80s and the 90s. Like, when you look at country as a genre or as a whole or whatever you want to call it, and you look at other genres, right? Very few have the amount of true legends that are still playing. Yep. I mean, I just saw Tracy Lawrence. He did almost 100 dates last year, you know? Yeah. And, like, because fans, like, country music is the poetry of real life. You know what I mean? Like, it's absolutely. It's what you want to say when you can't. It helps you find the words to say. It's moved to people that have a heart that want to do good, you know, like it's so like there's a passion that gets connected to the country listener and the country song, which makes them want to just dive all into the 100%. Artist and the record, you know.
It's just so much heart in the music. The country music has got more heart than most.
And country fans are, I think, more loyal than any other format as well.
Dude, I mean, there are fans that'll save up money and like find a run, right? So like 3 or 4 days.
And come to every show.
They'll come to every show, be at every meet and greet, never ask for a free ticket, never ask for, you know, anything, right? Just show up to just support and love of music, you know? Yeah. And so I think that's, you know, us having a CMA Fest, you know, only genre that has something that is truly for the fans, you know, for a week out of the year. I wish they would have picked like February because it is so fucking hot. So hot every time. Like I have came close to seeing Jesus twice on that riverfront stage. It's like,
dude, it is brutal.
Yeah.
It was one of those times when you stole the golf cart?
That was after the CMA award. That was after the awards? CMT awards. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. But that was during CMA Fest, right?
Yeah, that was during CMA Fest.
They canceled those. I wonder why. Yeah. Michael Ray have anything to do with that? Well, golf cart fiasco.
I
hadn't heard that story. Satterfield was telling it to me the other night.
Oh, Sadie told you? Yeah, because he wasn't involved in it. Yeah, so he's outing me. I was with another group of artists, and we were walking down, and they had all the golf carts, and we couldn't figure out how to get to where. I think we were going to FGL House. They were doing some after party there. So we're walking through, and I look, and there's keys in this one, and I was like, well, I mean, it's right here.
Yeah,
and they're like, oh, we can't. Everybody laughed, and I was like, Waylon would do it.
Without a doubt.
Like, if this was back in the day, if we want to make some country music stories here, boys, this happens. So I talked them into doing it. They all hopped on. We take this golf cart.
So who'd you have on there?
Parmalee.
Of course.
Oh, yeah, Matt's
That's great.
So I take it down Broadway, right? And we're all in suits and shit from the award show. Take it down Broadway. There's people taking photos. Matt, everybody's like, we're getting busted. I was like, buddy, that will be the biggest press we could possibly get.
Yeah.
Like, this is going to be, because none of us were drinking, right? We weren't like, we were headed to the party.
Right.
So we go hang out. Well, I got my dad and everybody back at my house, and I had a house over in Woodwood, Houston area. If you know where that is a decent little hike on a golf cart.
Yes.
Right? I walked outside thinking someone's surely going to take this golf cart, you know. Go in there, hang out. Nope, golf cart's still where I left it. I said, this is a sign.
So I should drive it home.
Tell a few of the Parmalee guys, I go, guys, I just live right down the road, right? Because I knew I couldn't tell them where I lived and they'd be down with it. But I'm like, this is going to be hilarious. So I drove this golf cart down the highway, off an exit. Called my cousin. I said, hey, man, open up the garage. The garage is in this alleyway. First off, halfway through, they're like, you live way further than you let on.
Yeah.
So we're driving through, and
as we're getting on the interstate.
Yeah, as we're
Like,
taking
hey,
back
bro.
roads and like moving. And so I pull up. My cousin's like, what did you do? And I'm like, it was just here. And so we took it, and now it's here. And we just got to figure out what to do with it now. So it's at my garage for a while. My dad read us the whole Miranda Act, you know.
Yeah, of
all
course.
the things. But I was just thinking, like, I don't know. I read a lot of country music stories growing up, right?
Yeah, George Jones on the lawnmower.
George Jones on a lawnmower.
Oh, yeah.
Michael Ray and Parmalee on a golf cart. Doesn't hit as
I mean, the fact that you drove it down 65 to
That's pretty
Wedgwood
freaking
is pretty incredible.
Yeah, also, I was like, why did anybody
Say no?
Stop. Yeah, like
stop.
something.
Like, why is 6 grown men on a golf
It's like
cart?
people
on
are
an
like
interstate?
passing you guys going,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah,
Like,
that's weird. Wonder what they got on that thing, you know? But yeah.
so where did somebody ever come and take the golf cart back?
Yeah, we donated it.
You donated?
I'll leave it at that.
That's amazing. What a good story.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I have to thank you for, I think you're the reason I met Post Malone. We played over at the Bridgestone.
Oh, yeah.
Whiskey Row. We all went back to Whiskey Row. And, you know, pretty cool because whenever he comes here a lot now.
Yeah.
And whenever, you know, I think I may have spent 15 or 20 minutes with him that whole night. And everyone was, you know, how it is. Everyone's taking their turns with Post.
Yeah.
He's such a nice guy. He'll entertain everyone, anyone and everyone. But, you know, he walked onto the back deck that day, and we made eye contact. And he goes, what's up, dude? And I was just like, dude, he freaking remembers me. Like, you know, Post Malone is you know, I know you know him a little bit, too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's a special dude, man. Like, probably one of the most thoughtful and kind and generous with his time. And, you know, not just artists, but people I've ever met.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, he's a different dude.
Yeah, he was one of those, because that was my first time meeting him that night, too. And, like, what blew me away was how much, because I grew up on a lot of what would be considered more traditional country music, my grandpa's band, my dad and all them. So I grew up, like, I listened to Limp Bizkit, but I was really listening to, like, Earl Thomas Conley and Haggard and, you know, those guys. And so, anyway, him and I started talking that night at Whiskey Row, and he jumped on, I don't know if you remember this, he jumped behind the DJ and started playing. He's like, oh, man, I'll play you one of my favorites. And he played The Conversation.
Yeah.
By Hank and Waylon. And I was like, and then he played
a bunch of country songs.
Of like deep country cuts, and I'm like, oh, he's legit.
Yeah,
you know, like
this dude knows his stuff.
This dude knows his stuff. You know, and I think he, you know, he's one of those guys that can do any genre almost. You know, like, and it fits. He's just one of those artists that he was influenced by so much, and for some reason he picked what he liked about all of it. You know what I mean? To where he can kind of, I don't know. He can kind of just do whatever, and it works.
And it still comes across as authentic. Which is really freaking hard for anybody.
Yeah, well, I think it's because he's an authentic dude.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Well, that's it. Yeah,
and insanely talented.
Insanely talented. Yeah, that also
insanely talented.
But that's like the guy that you see on stage is also the guy that you
meet
kick it with. Yeah, every time. You know, I've only been around him a couple times. That was a long time ago, but every time it's. And also, man, you can tell like when nobody's watching, like how he is with other people.
He's a sweetheart.
Like, that's the biggest thing too. You know what I mean? Like I've seen him be. Well, when we were there that night before we went to Whiskey Row, like coolest shit to any fan, anybody that was coming up to.
Yeah,
anybody's cousin that hey man, will you meet this guy? You know, like right after its show.
When you were talking about his knowledge of like old country and traditional country, we were sitting on the back deck till like 7 a.m. one night listening to him and Bobby. Kid Rock.
Oh yeah.
Take turns with the guitar and playing all those Merle Haggard songs and George Jones songs. And I had the same thought, like probably you did when I was sitting there. Yeah, right. And then here in my mind, I'm like, bro, I'm ready to go home. Yeah. Like can you guys hurry? Like which no one else, would ever think that. But it was the funniest thing is like that night, like the sun was coming up. We got to go, guys.
Yeah.
And I was kicking some girl off the patio because there was like a few stragglers that were, just fangirling around. And I was like, you got to go. And then she's like, Post, he's kicking me out. And Post looks at me and he's like, hey, bro, can my friend stay? And I'm like, yes. I was like, yeah, bro, but everybody's got to go. And he goes, you're kicking me out? I was like, no, I will never kick you out. I was like, but I'm about to leave. So you guys can do whatever you want, but there won't be any more booze or music. So figure it out. And then they got it, their stuff together and made their way out. But like he really is like a, very, very got some very deep roots in country music.
Yeah, man.
Believe it or not, he really does. It's pretty cool.
I was watching an interview the other night from the whole Opry 100 thing the other night, and I guess Travis Tritt was talking about how he didn't know a ton about him, but his knowledge of country music history, and basically said he's a student of the genre, and
but also of like old rock and roll too, and old hip hop, and you know what I mean, like
and everything,
and everything,
R&B, like the dude is.
Well, even hearing him cover Nirvana and doing that whole record, it's
Kid Rock's the same way.
Yeah. Oh, so that was the other thing.
He's an encyclopedia.
You'd be blown away, but Bobby can play anything.
Yeah, and play it great.
Yeah,
like
really great.
He is solid and like gonna be real hard to stump that dude in any music trivia
for sure.
Like he is on his.
I think that's the DJ game. In him too. As a DJ, you know everything about every song. Like it's kind of your job.
Dude, he was the first CD I ever bought with my own money. This kid, and I was in 6th grade, headed to Eustis Middle School. I was already like playing guitar in my grandpa's groups and all that stuff, right? And so this kid was like, "Hey man, heard you play music." I go, "Yeah." He goes, "I'm bringing a CD tomorrow. Bring $2. I'll sell it to you." I was like, "All right." So I go home. I think I had $1. Then asked my dad for another $1. Get on the bus the next day, and it was the Ball with the Ball.
Oh my God!
Record with Only God Knows Why and
Cowboy.
I got one for you. Cowboys on there. Yeah,
that's
all these
bangers.
That's
a banger, dude. Yeah, that whole album.
And dude, I listened to it.
Yeah.
And it was the real one, the one with the middle finger on the CD. Yeah, that wasn't the edited one. My man sold me the real deal.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Dude, later on, we became buddies, and I was like, Dad, you got that? What happened to see on that Kid Rock CD? Yeah. He's like, no, man, I don't know where that is. I was like, damn.
That's awesome. I think he has the single coolest in my lifetime, the coolest rock and roll moment in my lifetime. That Lollapalooza performance, bro, like when he comes out with Ball with the Ba.
With the fur coat.
And the fur coat.
Yeah, dude.
And like my name is Kid.
Yeah.
And then when he just like drops, dude, like you look out and there's just like, 150,000 people going ballistic.
Yeah. If you're at a Kid Rock show and he
give me chills thinking
about it.
Is like
Kid.
It's so good.
That would make a nun run through a wall, dude. Like you automatically just get like
fired up.
You just get on another level.
Yeah.
And his show is like the encore from the time he starts until it finishes.
100%.
Yeah. Like if you want to go and learn from an entertainer, like go to a Kid Rock show. It's nuts. I mean, and it's cool because he's like, again, like Posey, like country, rock, hip hop, like all this, you know, all these genres that he does. So like, it's kind of like 3 shows in one, and it's cool how he like intertwines it, you know. And the last one I saw, it was a few years ago. I don't know if he's still doing it, but you know, he goes into like the old '80s DJ. And,
right.
Oh yeah, I've seen him where he bro. He's unbelievable.
Yeah, bro. Yeah, he's
unbelievable
legit,
scratching records. Like,
and he's the real deal. Like that was before all the USB,
the computers started DJing for you.
Yeah. Heard y'all had our boy DJ Silver on.
Oh yeah, we definitely had him. You know, Silver and I been buddies a long time, obviously, in the DJ world. That's how we first met each other, and then we did the TC group stuff together. And I booked him in Vegas a bunch, and he's always been really good to me. And you know, Silver may be like the most plugged in individual on the planet.
Oh yeah,
like that dude's like, if you bring up any celebrity, like you could be a professional wrestler, it could be like a fucking cooking show host, and he's like, oh yeah, she's my friend, he's my friend, like I know them, like I'm like, bro, like
how you were in baseball, like my guilty pleasure is professional wrestling, right?
Oh yeah.
And I was obsessed as a kid. I still watch every documentary, like Raw, the whole deal, right? It's like the whatever. So
dude, the Vince McMahon documentary is pretty good.
That one is insane.
Yeah.
Also, I was like, so my whole childhood
what a crazy
was a
person.
Lie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
All these people that we held up high, like growing up, now are just getting wrecked for stuff that they did around that time.
Right.
Yeah, I'm on the phone with Silver because he'll always call once in a while, like, you know, he's playing something and they need somebody or whatever, so he'll call. And he's always been such a good friend in that way. Like, call, hey, dude, you happen to be free these dates? You know, I got this deal. And he, what were we just talking about? You said something. I just completely lost track of my thought.
The pro wrestling?
About him being plugged
so
in.
he calls me for this thing, and then he's like, hey, dude, also, man, like, I've been living in Clearwater, dude. So, like, Hogan has Hogan's Hangout. They do karaoke on Mondays. You got to come. And I'm like, listen, man, I appreciate the gig, but I want to do karaoke with Hulk Hogan. Like, literally. I'll do, in fact, don't put a lot of effort in the gig. Put more effort into karaoke with Hogan. Right. That's what I want to do. I go, when is it? He's like, Monday nights. I go, I will meet y'all there anytime.
It was like 100%.
Come on. I'm like, his old, what's his name? Mouth of the South, Jimmy Hart. Yeah, and he's like, oh yeah, he's there sometimes. I was like, dude, listen,
so cool.
This has to happen.
I mean, I as a being a baseball fan, but I mean, I definitely ripped. Stood in my living room.
Oh yeah.
Had my uncle cut my shirt up so I could rip it because I wasn't strong enough.
Oh yeah,
that was one of the highlights for me. Steven knew them growing up in Florida, and used to go do odd jobs around their house to make extra money. And somehow we played his bar, and he brought us on stage, does the whole thing. Right before we come on, rips his shirt open.
It's amazing.
Bro, he's
one of the most memorable intros to a show.
I mean, Hogan is an icon, man. And I am a real American. Like, bro, you can't beat that. That walking out to that, like back when he was in the yellow trunks.
Oh yeah.
Hulkamania was still alive.
Hulking out, dude.
Dude, he was
24-inch pythons.
Couldn't beat it, dude. Couldn't beat it.
I used to try to cut promos in the mirror when I was a kid. Just talking shit to myself.
That's amazing. I practiced the moves on my little brother for sure.
Yeah.
I transitioned from a Hogan guy to a Stone Cold Steve Austin guy. I got the Texas Rattlesnake literally tattooed on my arm. I took a Stone Cold T-shirt into the tattoo studio.
I love it.
Had him put it on me. Then I was like, hey, just go ahead and throw some tribal shit on there while you're at it.
Yeah, let's get more white.
Let's get more wife beater-ish. It's like the whole Theo's bit about Monster Energy drink. This guy looks like he's ready to beat some wives.
Dude, have you seen his top 5 answers or something on Rogan?
Oh, dude.
Somebody had clipped him up, and you're crying.
They're gold. So I went to a Theo show. This is like 3-4 years ago, and it was on the University of Butler's campus in their auditorium, and didn't even know. I bought the tickets just to go see Theo. And then we got there, and Shane Gillis opened, and then Andrew Schultz was next, and then it was Theo Vaughn. So it was just dude. 3 hours of just doubled over laughing the whole time. But the craziest thing that I thought, and this speaks to how Theo can just transverse things that most people can't, or move through a topic that people can't really talk about. He comes out on stage and he's like, everybody cheers. He looks around and he's like, a lot of fucking white people. Yeah. And then they all fucking start cheering, you know, and you're like kind of laughing, like, where's he going with this? And he's like, all right, where are my Mexicans at? And then like 20 or 30 Mexicans cheer, and he's like, man, 20 or 30, that's pretty good. He's like, that's more than I usually get. And then he's like, all right, where are my black people at? And there was like 2. And then he there's one down on the front row, and he looks at the guy and he goes, hey man, don't worry, we're not here for a meeting. Oh my! And I was like, I looked at my wife, I was like, did he just start the show with the fucking KKK joke? Like, are you kidding me? And like, no one cared. Like, everyone just laughed. And I was like, there really aren't very many comedians that can get away with telling jokes like that.
Yeah.
But Theo is such a genuine, real dude who, you know, shows his self in his podcast and in his act, you know, to a point where people trust that he's not a bad guy. You know, I think that's like, everyone knows that Theo's not a bad guy. So like, they don't take those things in a negative light.
Yeah.
And that's the way it should be taken. I mean, man, when you start policing humor,
dude,
we got real problems in this world.
Yeah, man.
And that's where, you know, lately, you know, in this country, I feel like we were getting to a point where you couldn't say anything funny anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It would piss somebody off, and whoever that may be has got a platform now.
Just turn it. You don't have to watch it. You know what I mean? And comedy, like I love going to, Adrenina and I go to comedy shows all the time. Like comedy shows, one, their mic work and how they talk to a crowd, like as an artist in any form, you can learn. You know what I mean? Like you can learn from that. But also like the beauty about comedy is you're going to go and you're going to hear some shit that none of us would say, but we've all thought.
Yeah.
And but this guy can do it in a humor way and bring a crowd together, and it's supposed to touch on some topics that might be a little uncomfortable. That's comedy, man. Like their whole thing is to make light of a bad situation or dark, whatever it is, you know. But yeah, when you start censoring what these men and women can say, I think that's why you're seeing a massive pushback on those guys. Where like the Shane Gillis's, the Andrew Schultz, those guys that are like, no, I think now we're just gonna double down. Now we're just gonna go with it, and it shows like, dude, they're for the first time in a long time, there's more comedians like selling out arenas, stadiums than they ever have. You know what I mean? Before it was like a handful. Now there's like a bunch that are selling hard tickets. You know, and comedy, man, that's something, dude. Like
the hardest job on the
planet,
planet,
like you could fake a clap. I'm sure I've sucked at some point in my life where people are like, oh, okay, you know, like there's just a couple claps happen, right? You can fake those. You're not faking a laugh.
No.
So you go up there and you're standing there by yourself.
That pressure, bro, has got to be something.
Oh my God.
else. I think that's why a lot of those guys are, very troubled in the addiction. You know, they have a lot of problems, man, because they carry a lot of freaking weight, every day when they walk out. One of my favorite comedians of all time is Mitch Hedberg.
Oh yeah.
And that guy was nuts, dude. But he was like a hardcore heroin addict and alcoholic, and like I think, I don't know, it's just the weight of what you do. Like, imagine walking out on stage in front of a room full of people and them not laugh. That pressure and that anxiety. Like, I personally am not strong enough. I couldn't do it.
Well, I think that's one thing that I wish that, and they do it here real good with Porter's Call. I think the country music world really shines more light on it. It seems like maybe it's because we're in it, but the mental health and the importance of taking care of what's in here, because you hear this voice more than you hear any voice ever in your life, And so what you're telling yourself, or if you're believing a article written by some dipshit that that you'll never meet in your life, who just got balls because he's behind a computer at his mom's house, all of this stuff, and you always got to be on. Now you got to be on, and you got to be the funny guy.
Yeah.
And you got to be that. Like they don't.
A lot of pressure.
A lot of times, man, I really feel like if we had some sort of like integration program into this, and then periodically like have something where people can go to and talk and like really seek, like there's natural ways to get help. There's multiple ways of therapy. For me, like I tried one-on-one talking, it didn't really work for me. That's why ayahuasca changed my life. So it's like these different forms. I tried different things. And I think that a lot of those guys wouldn't go down the route of drugs or too much alcohol and stuff if maybe there was more of a a group in that world, which I think there is. And I think Joe Rogan's really like created
some awareness.
Comedy. I mean, it's like a freaking gala, this like thing that they all have together. You know what I mean? I think they got a real cool friendship and brotherhood in it. But the mental state of all this is something that people don't really talk about. You know, the missing of the family events or whatever, or of your family, or whatever. And it doesn't matter what you're going through. And this isn't a complaint by any means, because we got into this to do this. You know, like we signed. That's why I always hate people like, I hate going up and getting recognized. I'm like, well then freaking Uber Eats, dude. Like, why are you like, you know what I mean? Like, you signed up for this. You know, like, someone's probably going to, if you've had some success, people might probably recognize you. You know, when you go out. But
and if they don't, you might not be successful.
That's what Randy Owen said. Randy Owen said that to me one time. We did these shows with Alabama at the Fox Theaters. We followed him, and he said, Michael, never complain when they're asking. It's when they stop asking. That's when you have a problem. And I was like, good point. You're right. Yeah, because then they don't. They don't give a shit now. Yeah. Then you end up wanting that. You know, again, right. You know? But
well, I know that you spent a few years on Warner Brothers and had some huge hits over there. And I know that you've gone through kind of a transition and doing things independently. And I know you've been throwing around the idea of signing at another label and whatnot. And so I guess maybe if you could tell us a little bit just about that journey, and to piggyback off of the kind of mental health stuff that we were talking about, just the expectations and stuff. And when you as an artist feel like you're doing everything right, and then you're kind of the victim of whatever it is that the label or your team kind of decides, like how that's kind of shaped how you approach the business and affected your own mental health.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it was crazy because when I signed to Warner, it's the only record company I've ever been with, and I love those guys. Chris Lacey over there, when I signed over there, Espo was over there, and Chris has always been like one of the best people. You know, even more of an A&R, like as just a good friend, a good person that I felt like always would shoot me straight. You know,
trust him.
Like talk to her about life stuff. You know what I mean, and different things. And we had a really awesome radio team, and it was during that time that just, man, it just felt like an instant family, And so I'm so grateful for them in that time with them, because I wouldn't want to be where I'm at without them giving me a shot, and fighting for me, and always will be, Team Warner with those guys. But in business and anything, and ours drastically changed after COVID, and I'd gone through some stuff and really, listened to some people of how to handle things that, was probably not the right way to do it, and just really sent me down a real dark path, for years, and I'd have good days, and then all of a sudden nothing, man. And it was just, the mental games, all the anger, all that stuff that sits on you. Go, talk to somebody, that it really didn't help, try something else, that really didn't help. And through this time, like, touring was different. There was different, people were leaving Warner, and there was a new regime coming in, and so it was just like I just felt like everything just was crumbling, and there was nothing I could do, and then that just dove me deeper, and then you end up realizing that, I'm just drinking to numb, because I don't go out, but if I go out, then I need to make sure that I'm like this, so I got to numb this, so nobody asks, type of thing, and then and so it's just it if you're not careful with that, it snowballs and snowballs, and before you know it, it can lead to some really bad things, and so I was just going through a lot, man, and then all of a sudden, like, it was just tough. Like, we had Spirits and Demons out, and then half my radio team got let go, and they were moving a bunch of stuff, and they just didn't, that song stalled at like 30 something. And I'm like, Megan Patrick is a badass. She crushed it. Like, all the, this duet is, I know it's a hit,
Yeah.
And I just kind of felt like we were kind of slowly going apart, And so Chris and I had dinner and had a good talk, and it was just like, hey, let's just go. Thank you. You know what I mean? And we'll, go our own ways, type of deal. And so that was close to the end of last year.
Right.
And man, it just really, all of a sudden I'm sitting at the house, and we purposefully didn't have a lot of shows last year towards the end of the year. And I'm like sitting there, dude, and you're like, first off, you go on social media, you're just scrolling, and then you go down the doom scroll of all this stuff. And you have to realize, very important to realize, that social media is a highlight reel. Ain't nobody talking real shit on there.
No,
you know,
it's what they want you to think.
Yeah, so everybody's posting what they want you to see or what they want you to do or what they want you to buy, you know. So just think about it as like a car salesman, right? No car salesman's like, hey, Eric, what the fuck do you want? You know, like, he comes in, Eric, how's the kids? Boys still playing soccer? You know, like, like that's what they're selling you, right? So that's something to keep in mind. But anyway, I had caught myself going through that dooms of that, man. And ayahuasca is something that you get called to it, you know, and doing a lot of charity work with military and talking to some of the military guys and girls that have done ayahuasca.
Benefited a lot of those guys. I have a friend who's a veteran, and in his unit alone, I think in the first 10 years they were out, 27 suicides, bro.
Yeah.
And so he got really big into ayahuasca and taking vets to trips to see a shaman and like doing it, you know, in a teepee and doing it, you know, like I know there's more easier ways to do it, I guess, these days, but I think that, in my opinion, if you're going to do it, that's the way you need to do it.
Yeah, so I always like wanted to do it, man, and it was so crazy because like I felt for like 5 years that I might have said this to you when we were in Colorado, but I felt for like 5 years like there was this glass wall, right? And I would see me, but I was a way better version of what I was giving myself. Well, you know, when you fall out of love with yourself, that you don't love anybody else. You know, when you have your own problems and you don't even like who you are because you're just numbing everything, you're just going through, you're people pleasing and all this stuff. Like you can't be anything else for somebody else, you know, and you got to take care of yourself. And it's funny, some people figure that out at a young age. Some people mid-30s, you know, but it's
some
like
great advice,
but,
man. I mean,
but it's true, man. It's so you like I said before, man, you hear the voice of your head more than you hear anybody else's. And so, I always felt called to it. And I always felt this, like I said, felt this glass wall and I couldn't break through it, you know, and there were days where I just felt like somebody else was driving the car of me, you know what I mean? And like, I wasn't.
You're just going through the motions.
Just going through the motions, dude, you know, and I was never that dude, ever. Like, I was up early, gym, like, you know, and all of a sudden.
Knowing you, you know, that doesn't make sense to me because that's not who you are to me.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Like,
and so, well, I got pretty good at numbing and hiding there for a little while. But, you know, and I think for me also it was like, oh, I can't show this side. I can't show this side. I never wanted, you know, when I talk about my parents' divorce and all the stuff that happened when I was a kid, like that's not me blaming them. I learned that if I share this story, it's not who they are. You know what I mean? Right. It's like what they were going through at that time, right?
Right.
So I never like place blame or play victim on those things. But I always like, I realized in different works that I've been doing is like, no, God gave me this platform. Like I can share what I went through and it's not putting anybody down or like, you know, talking negative about somebody. If this is the scenario, this is what got me here.
This is what happened. This is why I am who I am.
Yeah. And so I'd always been drawn to it. And then Adrena's sister had gone to Rhythmia, the place that we went to months beforehand. And I ended up going to this charity event that we do for Army Rangers. And Kelly Slater, the surfer, was there.
Yeah.
And me, him, and Jack Osborne, Ozzy's son, are sitting there talking, and Kelly is talking about ayahuasca and all these different things, you know. And so I tell Adrenina, because we're like, yo, we should do this. And I'm like, yo, you're not gonna believe this. I get back to her place. I'm like, Kelly was just telling me all about this. And I'm like, do you know that you purge and like you throw up and shit? Like,
so that's for me. Like you know, as my past, I've been a recreational drug taker.
Yeah.
So I do drugs for fun. Yeah. And then when someone talked to me about ayahuasca for the first time, I was like, that shit does not sound fun.
Yeah. Oh, I mean,
I was like, so I'm out. Like
it's I'll tell you this, man, it's the best thing I've ever done. We're going to plan a trip to do it next year. And I think everybody should do it. It's also the hardest thing, that you've ever done. But so anyway, I go tell her and we look it up. Well, he ends up being on the board of directors for Rhythmia. So all this stuff just started really lining up, you know. So we picked the time we wanted to go, which was in February. And you got to follow a real strict like diet on the front end of it. Like going into it, you want to go super clean. And we took it very serious.
Is there if you have like heart condition or anything, is that?
Yeah. So what's cool about Rhythmia is there's a doctor, there's a facility, and a paramedic on site.
Okay.
Now you have to be honest with what you're taking. You know, and there's some stuff that you know. But as soon as you get there, they check your blood pressure.
People that lie to their doctors are dumb. That's the dumbest thing in the world to me. Like you're going to a doctor to try to find out what's really wrong with you, and you're going to lie to them. That's
I'm the
retarded.
most honest dude you've ever seen with a doctor.
I mean, that's what they're there for.
Yeah, man, for sure.
Yeah.
So so we found this place, man, and you know, they say it's like, man, as soon as you decide to go on this journey, like stuff starts happening, and it does, you know, and you're just so open, right? Like it's like your mind has opened up to this is where I'm going to go. I'm going to do this therapy, and it heals 7 generations back and 7 generations forward. We get to this beautiful. We was in Costa Rica. Flew into this spot. Go to this beautiful place. Rhythmia is awesome. And we had 4 ceremonies, right? And the ceremonies are in the Maloka, and I think they started like 6 and go to 5 in the morning. One went to 9 a.m., you know, and they got these shamans there and this music, and it's all very spiritual, you know, and they talk about heaven and hell and all of that stuff. And you're on your own journey. And what I love too about that place is everybody that worked there, like the counselors or whatever, they were all people that went there.
Yeah.
So wasn't like you're up there and these guys are telling you
they're
some
a product
stuff.
of it.
They're a product of, you know, there's one of the guys named Johnny there that he was an actor, and he had gone there, and he was like you know, coming from like where we're from, like I don't want to sit here and hear some guy be like, okay, well, here's the statistic reasons of why, you know. First class we walked into Johnny's like, listen, we're here because we're all fucked up. And I was like, this is my guy. You know,
absolutely.
Like, he's going to shoot us straight here, you know.
Yeah.
And he had his own battle that he went in, you know, with addiction and different things. And now he goes in there 2 weeks a month and counsels, and he's there, you know. And so everybody there, they've been through it there, you know. And then the group that we were with, man, was just some of the most incredible people. And so I just knew, man, that there was something, and I felt of the last year that there's this breakthrough coming. I know there's something, you know, and I just couldn't get through it. And a lot of it was my ego with God, you know. And when you do ayahuasca, that gets checked day one. Immediately. And it's a tea, for anybody that doesn't know. It's a root, and they make it into a tea, which tastes absolutely horrible. Just for anybody that hasn't done it, if you're going, just know that's coming.
Yeah.
And you drink it throughout the night, and you have these visions, and you go to places, and the healing, and I mean, just it's the best thing I've ever done. It changed my entire life, man. Like there's this one thing called a rebirth that you go through. Pretty much you die and come back. And that happened to me, and I'm telling you, from that point on, I've never felt more light in my life.
That's awesome.
Like I've never felt just more connected and clear. Any sort of depression, any sort of anxiety, the shit that we hold on to, you know, all gone, completely gone.
That's awesome.
And now, I'm not saying that like when you do this, all of a sudden you get the keys to life, right? You just get the tools to handle these things, you know. Because on the integration, and I won't tell Adrenina's story. I'll have her come on. She'll tell you. You know, she'll tell her side. But you know, on the integration side, when you're coming back, there is a dip, right? Emotional dip. Because when you come out, dude, I'm telling you, man, since I've been there, dude, I feel like I'm on a different vibration.
Yeah.
You know, and I just
like your senses are on fire.
Oh, dude, everything, bro. I'm like grateful. My mornings have changed, dude. I write intentions, gratitude. I do breath work, which is another thing people should do.
Yeah,
Cold plunge.
I've heard a lot of good things about breath work.
My buddy Gio has an app. I'll show it to you guys. I met him at Rhythmia, and he's one of the top guys. He's out of Toronto, but breath work will change your life.
Well, I know people who've lowered their blood pressure like significantly with just breath work.
Yeah,
with no medication.
Dude,
2 years ago, I read a book called Breathe, and it's about breath work and learning how to breathe and not breathing through your mouth, and that alone changed my life.
Oh,
and
yeah, man.
I did 2 ayahuasca ceremonies after that, and the combination of all of it, like you said, changed my life.
Oh, dude,
completely.
it just completely changes everything, man. And it just gives you the tools. And like I said, we're going to go again. And I know some people it has this stigma with something, but it's a root that goes back to our ancestors, you know. And just like breath work, like all of these things are what our ancestors did, and were doing. You know, pharmaceutical companies and all this stuff ended up figuring out that they could overcharge and make people more of a return customer than healing.
And all they do is interrupt those processes with drugs.
Yeah,
like 100%. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's
so here's something that is shown to heal, to rewire the brain.
That naturally occurs
here. Yeah. And so, man, from night one, it was like I was just having these insane breakthroughs, you know, and visions, and the medicine talks to you. And I was like, how do we know it's the medicine and not these voices that I'm here to shut up, you know?
Yeah.
Right? And they're like, well, you'll know because it's a female plant.
Yeah.
And, dude, it talks to you. It's in a female, like, tone, you know, and you can hear. And it's so clear, and you just kind of follow it. And it was, man, the breakthroughs I've had, the ripple effect that you see through family, you know, that you heal, you know, seeing my mom. I saw my mom as an 8-year-old girl in her parents' house and talked to her about, you know, the trauma that she went through. And it made me understand, you know, things about her and, you know, my dad, you know, different things. And you just, the biggest thing I think in healing is you have to look at you look around you for sure, but also you have to have that hard talk with yourself of like, okay, well, what have you done? You know, like, where have you at? And what you learn when you go to like Rhythmia or whatever is they give you all these like courses and stuff that you take. I mean, you only sleep about 10 hours the whole week you're there, you know, but you're running on this energy the whole time, you know. But it's like from birth to 8 years old is the first time that we unplug, right? So the first time you've ever felt sad might be something dramatic, right? Might be angry dad not knowing who he's going to be when he gets home. Might be abuse. It might be my brother stole my truck and I was sad, you know?
Right.
But all of that is an unplug, right? And you start forming these defense mechanisms, these traits, you know, throughout your life. And then you don't get those fixed. You don't know. Maybe your parents didn't know. Well, now you're in middle school. Well, now you're noticing you're different, or you know what I mean? Or you're not this guy, right? So then you click with this crew and they're drinking and they're doing these drugs or they're doing whatever, you know, and all these bad habits go. No one ever intended to be a drug addict. You know what I mean? Like no one on career day was like, nope, I'm going to do that. You know, they're good people that just had bad things.
They're trying to escape.
Trying to escape, you know? And so like, it made me so in tune, not only with myself and really had like deep, heavy, like go through the emotions of my own shit, you know? And like, what have you caused, dude? Like, okay, you're a product of what you were and your parents are a product of what they were, right? So every generation is going to be different. That's obvious. But what have you brought into the adult life from that you need to clean the hell up, dude? You know? And so once you start there, then you can start being a better friend, better partner, better boyfriend or husband or wife or whatever. And that's what it did for me, man. And it's just the integration, like I said, you do get it. There is a dip where you feel that depression again. You kind of feel like, what the hell? You know, you feel that heaviness, but it's literally the old you and the old ways parting. You know, you're kind of mourning what
you used to be,
you know, and you won't look at things, dude. It's the craziest thing. Like things that aren't good for you that you were doing, you will not want to do.
You won't have interest in.
You have no interest in it.
I mean, I've heard a lot of people, you know, that quit, you know, recovering addicts. They go and then they just quit cold turkey, which is crazy.
Yeah,
you know, like I mean, obviously they can get very sick from withdrawals and stuff, but like anything that can go into your brain and interrupt that and just stop it.
Yeah.
Man, what an powerful thing. And like we were saying, it was put here by the good Lord.
Yeah.
So like, I believe that anything he put here, he intended us for us to use.
Absolutely.
So, you know, I smoke weed. People, you know, think whatever they want about me for that.
Yeah.
The good Lord put that here and he intended us to use it. So think what you want, you know? And then I've also always been a person who believes that most behavior is a symptom of whatever this person could be going through. Yep. Yeah. And I've always tried to give people the benefit of the doubt and show them some grace, especially with outlandish or like just behavior that doesn't make sense. Yeah. Well, like, that doesn't make sense. So there's something really going on there. Yeah. So I'm going to try to talk to them about that.
Yeah.
Instead of being like, hey, bro, why were you acting like that? I'll be like, hey, dude, what's going on with you? Yeah. Something going on in your personal life, something going on with your wife, something going on with your family. And then you can get to the source. Yeah. And it just makes, you know, having a relationship with some of those people easier to navigate because some people are always right there on the edge of, you know, a breakdown.
Yeah, absolutely. And you don't know, everybody's going through their own journey, you know? Yeah. And so one of the things that I learned and one of the things I did, and I keep the note in my backpack, I wrote a note to my childhood self from now, right?
Oh, wow, yeah.
And I kept it, and I'd read it every night before the ceremony and just kind of get your mind into a good spot, right? Because whether you're 70 years old, 30, 20, whatever, like 8-year-old you is still there, 10-year-old you is still there, 15-year-old you is still inside you. All of these things are still inside you, right? So a lot of people, when they're acting out on things or, you know, I always try to speak in my own because I'm no doctor or anything like that. I'm just know my own journey. You know what I mean? Like you look at yourself different than you look at other people. And if you're in the middle of it, you're not really seeing it.
You can't see it.
You know? And so, but even on mine, like I realized through this journey, like so much of my life that I was making hard, and the people that I hurt, or different things that happened, was because of these things I built up. You know what I mean? Throughout the years that you're carrying, and you're just trying to play God almost, right? Okay, I know how this turns out, so I just bought this. Well, it's not every scenario is the same. And also, one of the best parts of doing it was I got so close to God during this, and I'm 5 books into the Bible of reading it different, and about to start Job, and I just kind of read as I feel called to,
That's awesome.
But it's like, what I've learned too is those 5 years I just felt this struggle, right? And I'd see people, talk about Jesus and feel this like light, and I'm like, I grew up in the church. My great grandparents. I'm trying to like here's what we've done. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Why can't I feel you? And one day, dude, I swear to you, man, I just finally surrendered everything, and I was like, I'm just gonna listen. You know what I mean? And I had this vision of like, God for me for those 5 years was outside of my front door, knocking, and I was going, yeah, dude, come in. He's like, well, your door's locked, and I'm like, well, just come in. I will, and I'll redecorate your whole house, dude. I just can't get in,
Right.
And that's ego, that's
oh, you're right.
Fear, fear of like, well, if I change a little bit with my friend, well, I have the same friend group, all this stuff that literally is the devil and negative energy and negative voices trying to keep you
in that place.
My dad said something the other day. He's like, man, I need to achieve something, because he's been retired. He's like, I need to achieve something. I feel like I've just been wallowing around in mud for 5 years, But it's true, man. It's like, as human beings, if you don't evolve or you don't challenge yourself in some way, you get stuck here, and you can get stuck there, and 20 years can go by before you know it, man.
Yeah.
And so through it all, man, for me, I was called to it, years ago, and it took meeting Adrenina and her and I and our relationship and how, close we are, and that just made it even more.
How'd you guys meet?
We met after one of my shows. This is when we first met.
Yeah.
We were all going back to my buddy Dan Henderson's house, a UFC fighter. And I was playing this club, Hendo, H-Bomb.
Yeah.
The next day we were playing like this festival for firefighters and their families in Temecula that was only like 45 minutes from Dan's house, or an hour or something. Anyway, we didn't have to leave. So he's got a big driveway, and so we were just going to bring the bus to his place and everybody hang out, and then we'll just leave in the morning. And so I told Rachel, his wife, I was like, well, after the show, I'll hop on the bus, change, I'll just ride with y'all. She's like, all right. So I get on the bus, change, text her. Well, all right, I'm ready. She's like, there's a black Range Rover, just get in it. They're coming. I'm like, okay. I got in, it was Adrenina.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Cool. Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, she was what? She on Laguna Beach? Is that what she was on?
The Hills.
The Hills. That's right. Yeah, I knew it was.
What's it like, being with somebody that's been in the spotlight, but not necessarily on the music side of it? Like, as an entertainer and
man, I'll tell you this about her, dude. And I'm not just saying it. Like, when I first met her, like I didn't watch The Hills,
right?
And I didn't watch Dancing with the Stars or any of that stuff, right?
Yeah.
And she's always funny about it. She's like, I never expect you or any of your friends to have seen The Hills, like, because all my buddies like, if they meet, they're like, sorry, I didn't know. She's like, it wasn't 100% get it,
Right. Yeah.
But so I didn't know. But also why I didn't know is because she's such a normal human being,
person.
You know what I mean? Surrounded by such a great family, and she's such a family oriented. Like she was taking her nieces and nephews to red carpet debut, premieres,
right.
or her sisters or brother, and like
she's sharing that with.
She was sharing all the experiences with her, and they're very close, big family, and they do at Christmas over there is like, it's like a movie. Like these kids, there's all because all of them have kids and
like Home Alone,
dude.
Like
it
the
is.
house.
It is like there's just paper going everywhere.
Madness,
man. And that's how it was when I was a kid.
That's fun.
Growing up, we all had so it took me back to like when I was their age, and the excitement when all your cousins are there and all that.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, she's one of the most solid people I've ever been around. And just her want to grow and be better is what has inspired me. You know what I mean? And she's been through her own battles and struggles in life, so she's got a godly heart, but she also just she's a realist, and she understands stuff, and it's funny because her not being in the music scene, but people don't know that she actually worked for Epic Records before Hill. She was going to go for A&R, so she wanted her like cool. Yeah, so she heavy metal, which is always those girls that are the heavy metal fans.
That's like, crazy.
Yeah, this like petite little girls out there just freaking throwing down in the middle of a mosh pit,
Yeah.
But for her, that was her escape growing up,
That's awesome.
that music,
cool,
so It's cool because I can see we could both like have learned so much of how the industries are different, how much they are a lot alike in a lot of ways.
Well, I'm glad you guys have found each other, man. I know it's not easy in this town, and you know, we've all kissed a few frogs.
Yeah. Was doing the ayahuasca thing together, like, how did that change your relationship?
Awesome. Yeah,
like,
it was dude, it's been incredible, man. I think, you know, one thing that because we both gone through our own stuff is like she has her journey, I have mine, and we have ours together. You know, and so during ayahuasca, we kept that very separate, you know.
Yeah, because you're on your own journey.
Yeah. I feel like I can say this because she wouldn't care, but what I did learn though is that you are on two separate journeys, right? So during that time, like there's no talking during the ceremonies, right? It's very, you know, they bless the Maloka and all this stuff. So the girls are on one side, guys on the other. So I don't see her or speak to her until the next morning, right? Well, my first one, dude, I had this breakthrough with like 8-year-old me, dude. There's this photo of me that I have, and I have it framed in my house. Because this photo of me, dude, I'm just like hands on hips, just cheesing. I got the old school like Ray written out that my grandma made me with the, you know, the paint and all that stuff. And in my mind, I don't know why, I'm like, that picture's drawn. I'm drawn to that picture. I feel like that was before I ever unplugged. Like I feel like that like photo's just like pure happiness, right?
Right.
The first night we're doing the ceremony, I drank like 4 cups of this stuff. I end up in a hammock, right? And I'm seeing this version of me. My grandparents, my Uncle Terry, people that have passed when I'm talking to them, and they're not of the older age that when they died. They were at the young age that I remember them being like able to play and able to have fun, you know, lighthearted. I see little me, and I'm talking to him. Me and him are talking. I'm like gassing him up because he was always a little nervous about the fact that he had a little bit of a gut. So I was like, take your shirt off, dude. We're strutting. Here I am with my shirt off, bro. Walking back and forth. But I'm walking little 8-year-old me, dude, right? I'm having this entire breakthrough with myself. I saw my mom when she was a kid. Like, it was all family oriented for me. A lot of questions I've had.
That's awesome.
All different things, right? So the next morning, it's like 4 a.m. We get to our room. And Adrena's like, so how was your night? And I'm like, listen, now I'm vibrating, dude. I'm on cloud 9. I threw up a few times, like had these visions. When you see these visions, dude, like
they're legit. Yeah.
Oh, buddy. And you are, be ready to purge.
It's unlike anything you've ever seen before.
Yeah. And it's not like you're like on the toilet, like, oh God, you're just like, get this out of me. Like, and you feel it. And so I'm telling her all of this stuff and completely not thinking, typical guy, right? Like, completely not thinking that, she probably had a different experience, you know? So I'm like, and then I was like 8-year-old me, and I was like gassing me up, dude. Like, we're looking at the moon, and I'm like, she's like, I was in hell, Michael. Like, I was talking to demons. Like, the first place she went when I was like, I felt like a dick. You know what I mean? I'm like, on this, like, okay, maybe you go first next time. But yeah, man, I think it really did bring us closer, a lot closer. I know it did. And the only part that was like crazy was her kind of down in integration was like when I wasn't, and then I went I went after her, and so like hers like hit her pretty hard, and it was just this like time frame where they kind of made it seem like it's a little dip,
right?
You know, and I'm like, oh, okay. It's like, no, it's like a week of like it gets heavy, you know.
Like, I noticed afterwards, like, have you had that kind of female voice in your head since then? Like, for about 6 months afterwards, like I felt like I had almost like a guide with me, like the same female being that I experienced in the ceremony.
And well, they say
like, and once that went away, it's like now I've wanted to desperately get back to it. It's been like 4 years for me.
Dude, you need to go, man. I'm like a disciple for it now. So I'm telling everybody.
When you plan on going back?
Oh yeah, we're gonna go back next year.
I'd love to chat with you. Yeah, maybe tag along. I don't know if I can convince my wife to do it, but she grew up Mormon. She's a little more square than me. I don't think she's ever done.
Hey, there's breath work there.
She's never done a drug in her life. But
I'd love to get my wife to do it also, just because when I've tried to explain my experience to her, it seems so foreign.
It's hard for her to grasp.
Even my misconceptions about God and stuff, like just how clear it became to me almost immediately.
Yeah,
like if everyone could just experience that alone, it totally reshaped my entire belief system and confirmed, you know, kind of how the structure of the church in this modern day is and always has been more of a control mechanism than anything. It's like that kind of stripped that stuff away.
Yeah.
And also, you know, I'm about to celebrate 10 years of sobriety from alcohol in April, and like I was always chasing something, and it was always such a battle for me to not want to drink because I wanted to numb all that stuff.
Yeah.
And then 5 years into that journey, I experienced ayahuasca for the first time, and it just made everything click.
Yeah.
And that desire and those triggers just weren't there anymore.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's the craziest thing, man. And I think because we're still, dude, like our group that we ended up going with, obviously, like you start off as strangers with these people, and by night one, you know, everybody's opened up. Oh, dude. And we went with this just awesome group that we're still all in contact. There's a big group text through WhatsApp that we all have, you know, and just keeping everybody going and pushing forward, you know. And I think that one of the many great things about doing it with Adrenina was there wasn't coming home trying to tell somebody how it was. Because I think sometimes, like you said, when you come back, like you've done some deep healing. You know, there's a practice, or there's one of the things like called a nada that's like when you take the first cup, and there's music playing like this whole ceremony. You take the first cup and you knock out, and you don't wake up till they wake you up, right? That's like the medicine knocking you out, because it's such deep trauma that's going through that you got to be knocked out, you know, to feel it. So you're not going to be the same going back in. You know, you're going to be a better version, you know.
Yeah.
And so it's tough for some people to come back into real life, because you went away and did all this deep healing. Life was still lifing over here. Dude, for the spouse.
Like I was,
you know what I mean? Like,
I felt like I was on an island by myself when I came back. I couldn't express.
And you have the excitement of like a kid. You know, like you have that excitement of a kid of like, dude, no, listen.
Well, it's like you have a taste of that raw, like unadulterated happiness that you experienced as a kid, and then, like you said, you have all those coping mechanisms you start to develop. And you become really a shell of yourself.
Yeah, man.
And to really peel all that back was such an incredible experience.
Yeah, and you realize how hard that we are on ourselves.
Yeah.
You know, and especially when you're in the entertainment world of any form of it, extra critical of everything that you do. And, you know, again, you tell yourself this over and over, that's what you start believing. And so you start finding yourself that, oh, I can't act happy in this, or I can't do this and that. You know, in all reality, it's like one of the best things that I got out of it is, in the best way possible, I don't give a shit what anybody thinks.
Yeah.
You know, and not in a jerk way of like that, but in like, hey man, I got my relationship with God, and that's the only form of perfection that's ever walked the earth, and everybody else is just beautifully broken people trying to figure it out along the way, 100%. You know? And so it gave me that confidence of like, first off, I didn't know who I was. I lost myself. You know what I mean? So it was like that guy that I was seeing on the other side of my mind, I met him. And I became him through this journey, you know, and I thought all this stuff was just blocking me. And really it was ego, it was numbing, it was all these things that trying to create this facade that ain't doing anything but hurting me and not letting anybody close, you know, like
100%.
But we'll do a little, what was it, In the Blind podcast at Rhythmia, dude.
Yeah. Dude, that'd be awesome. Yeah. I mean, we would definitely, I'd definitely be willing to bring some cameras down and record it. I mean, I don't know, I obviously probably don't let you bring...
Not during.
Record during, but
I did say, I was like, all right, is there like a GoPro? Because I just want to see what I'm looking like walking around. I'm like, I just want to see what it was like. Because, dude, that when you hear it, man, and the vision is as real as we're sitting here.
I mean, this may sound crazy, but just listening to y'all's experience on it, and knowing that this is also the chemical the brain releases when you die, dying doesn't sound that bad. Like
my relationship with death and the afterlife,
like
after that experience,
obviously I don't want to be dead,
changed.
But like the physical act of dying, like might be the greatest moments of your life.
Yeah.
When I was in a hammock in Costa Rica, all of a sudden it started getting hard to breathe, right? Mm-hmm. And then this bright light came, and then I was soaring through like this black galaxy type thing. Then I was out. And when I came to hours later, when I came back, it was like
you were still going,
spanking the baby, getting, you know what I mean? Like getting the breath, and everything was brand new.
That's incredible.
Like everything was new. I'd had this light, this joy, this feeling that I, you know, hadn't had. I've just made myself small and small and small, you know, for so long. That it was just this new feeling, dude. That was like, you do kind of have a different relationship with death for sure after that. And it wasn't a scary thing. Adrena's was a little different than mine, come to find out after.
Yeah, right.
Poor thing what I thought I was going to end up seeing or going through is what she ended up seeing and going through some of it. But it's helped her navigate like some of her story, you know what I mean? And make sense of,
I think
why this happened or whatever. And it
interacts with everyone in a unique that's one of the things that's crazy about it to me is I think that it adapts to you individually.
100%.
And you get the experience that you needed, and you get the experience that you needed, and she gets the experience that she needed. Man, I don't know of anything else like that.
No.
I don't know of any
and
drug.
Trauma affects everybody differently.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Yet we all come up with similar coping mechanisms to deal with the same thing. So to be able to recognize what it is that caused you to kind of go so inward or to block everything else out, it allows you to figure out how you got to pull yourself out of that.
Yeah.
And you recognize that most of the time we are our own worst enemy.
100%.
Nobody really gives a shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Except for us.
So I think it's also good, man. You feel more empathy.
Oh, that's a huge thing.
You know,
man.
like you feel more, like you were saying earlier, like instead of like, the hell's wrong with you? Like, hang on, that's not normally Eric. You know what I mean?
Right,
Like, let me see what's going on here. Like before we just,
because I care about
stones.
Eric. Like whatever we're talking about, realistically, day to day, who gives a fuck?
Yep.
Like I'm way more concerned about who you are as a person. And if your behavior is telling me something's going on, then it's my duty as a good friend to fucking ask you about
Absolutely.
it. And that's kind of, I want to be a good friend. I've always tried to be a good friend, but I think, one of the things that makes me a good leader, and, a lot of my roles in life have been leadership roles, is that.
Yeah.
Is that I don't just bark at people. I go and find what the root of the problem is, and I try to address that.
Yeah.
And then, I think most people in general are inherently good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to look for it sometimes.
Yeah.
But you got to be willing to look for it.
Yeah. And I will say, ayahuasca, it gave me I don't know. It's like I read people differently now. And like
100%.
I can totally, somebody can walk in a room without even saying a word, and it's like I can sense an energy that before I was completely numb to.
Yeah.
And I think it opens you up to just the vibration and frequency of everything.
100%.
We're all light and water. We're all vibrating.
Energy is a real thing. And like Adrenina and her sisters, they're really smart, really into the wellness, and I've always been into it, but they've really opened my eyes to like true knowledge of a lot of that, stuff.
Yeah.
And for a while, I was like you, man, I was just numb to that.
Yeah.
And I was just, like,
I thought it was hokey. Like,
I'm like, that ain't real.
sure,
And then
sure,
you feel it, you start seeing it, and different things start happening in your life, and you see the effect of it. It's a very real thing.
Yeah, and once you're open to it, it's like the floodgates kind of open.
Yeah.
And that good positive energy literally attracts good things.
Yeah,
and
it's crazy.
Like the whole idea of manifestation has been so convoluted with social media and everything else, but like there's a lot of truth to it. It's just not necessarily how they sugarcoat it on social media because, like you said, it's a highlight reel. And nobody wants to be raw and truly open about their demons, what they're really dealing with.
Yeah,
it
then everybody's judging themselves on this, and I'm like, I promise you, that's not how that looked when they were shooting that.
Everybody putting their highlights out.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what people give you. We haven't really talked a lot about your music. You got anything coming up?
Yeah, man, we're in the works of kind of putting the team, back together. Once I made my decision to go
So
to do ayahuasca, I wanted to really go do that and then make my decision. So we got some talks with some labels, and just kind of figuring out where to go, just stacking the team up, and we'll be hopefully getting in the studio soon and getting the music out. That's the main focus of this year. We're light on shows this year because of just getting some things together, and cleaning up some stuff.
Good reset.
So yeah, man, a little reset button, and then getting everything ready to really hit the road hard in 2026. So right now, we're just doing the independent thing until we got some meetings coming up with some labels and see what happens. Awesome. And it's crazy, man. It's like, it's so different now. There's so many different avenues, that you can go. It's not just when we all came to town, you came to town and you set up the meetings, and
there was a method,
and there was only like the 5 labels.
Yeah, there was a process, and you had to follow the rules to get there.
And then now it's like, man, these independents are kicking ass, and then there's people that on social media, and so it's like kind of just figuring out what that right lane is,
what the good mix is.
Yeah, man. And there is an importance that a label brings, in a lot of ways, and
we have a lot of resources.
A lot of resources and stuff, and fortunately, I'm coming in thanks to Warner and them for having me for all those years and building a career that I'm still working, and I'm still I still come with something to the table. So that's definitely changed a lot. It was weird, dude. Like when you're chilling at the house and normally you're on tour, you're like,
oh yeah,
my agent Mike Betterton, shout out to him because he had to talk me off the ledge a couple times where I'm like, dude, am I ending? Is this it? Is this, is this a final countdown? Did it all just end? But I think you got to learn the journey of that too. And I think when God stops you for a minute, it's because you were going real hard in the paint for a while that you needed to reassess yourself, So I went out to Texas and did a lot of hunting with my buddy Patrick and Josh Phillips. And then Patrick and I went to Port O'Connor, Texas with this really cool fishing town, fish community with Captain Joey and Captain Rob, and we just fished for like 2 days and hung out with them. And it's like that. And their community's like, as soon as you meet them, they're going to give you shit. You give them shit back, and it's like you've known them your whole lives, And
that's awesome.
And so we went there, man, and I just really just reset and had some time with Adrenina and Kira, and then just really had this moment to really figure out what it is I want to do before I'm going in. And I think one of the things I look back on in my career is like I also try to pinpoint the times where I just went along with it.
Right.
Because I mean, maybe that was out of fear of like, well, I don't want to buck the system or whatever, and then you get older and you go through some stuff and you realize that you are the leader of that team, and like if you don't speak up, they're just going to.
You're setting a precedent for that.
You're setting a precedent for,
and they're just going to do this because
you're
the leader.
Yeah, and I really lost touch with that over the last few years, and so a lot of them really carried me through that time period where I just lost touch, lost give a shit, didn't, what I mean, like the whole thing. So I'm grateful for them, and I've learned, through that. So there's a lot that I look at, and I'm like, okay, I'm being more strategic and not trying to rush it too much as I just want to get it right.
Yeah,
music and team-wise and everything, and then hit the ground running.
I feel like when you start to rush and you start to push pieces, that's when there's usually a log jam and a backup, just because it's not necessarily meant to be.
You can't really rush art.
Yeah,
I mean, it's funny. I'm a big TV show guy, and like when you like Game of Thrones, for instance, like when they got past the books, well, that person spent 20 years writing those books.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're spending 18 months writing the next season.
Yeah.
That writing diminished significantly.
Yeah.
Like, so you just can't rush that stuff, man. Like, if you try to rush art, it's going to be shitty art.
Yeah. And it's crazy now because it's like when we were coming out there, obviously it wasn't social media in the way that it is now.
Yeah.
And then there definitely wasn't streaming,
Right.
But now it's like, do I put out music every week to stay relevant, or do I hold on to something and make sure that these 4 or 5 songs I'm going to release are the right ones? Because not even the best songwriter in the world writes a home run every day.
No.
You know what I mean?
No,
like,
they sure don't.
And so,
most of them write thousands of songs to get 20.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they'll write 1,000 songs and hope that 20 of them get cut and 10 of them might be hits.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of people that have written thousands of songs.
None of them.
Have they're grateful for one.
Yeah, exactly.
Finally does it.
So I think, man, I'm excited now about this journey of it and going into it with just a real clear mind and soul and navigating it in more of a
dude. Well, I'm excited to see what. I was already a Michael Ray fan. I'm excited to see what the super Michael Ray can come up with.
I know. I feel like I'm on a different level.
It's awesome, dude.
Messed up and help me fix all that shit.
Yeah. Well, another thing is you can't rush God either. That's the universe. Right. I mean, it happens when it's supposed to happen.
Yeah.
And you have to be open to it happening. At a pace other than your own.
Yeah. So. And I think, man, like I said, this in music industry has been a fast moving train way before we were ever even thought of as people or ever even a part of it, So before COVID, it'd been that fast moving train for generations, and you just got to hop on and
hold on for
your life, dude. Yeah. And so I think when that stopped, I mean, think about it. Never in a million years did you think concerts were going to be gone away or that we wouldn't be able to.
They would pull the biggest hoax on the world population that's ever been pulled.
I can't wait for the documentary on that.
What a joke, dude.
So it was like this all stopped, and I think that's what made a lot of people realize that, because I don't care who you are, and I don't care how passionate you are about your job. If you do what you love to do every day, at some point there'll be times where it feels like a job. Where you're like, God, I'd rather go back and I should have just stayed in the hometown and did this, instead of that. And especially with this business, man, it's like when you're on high, and then it drops, and then you're back up high again, then it drops again, and now everybody's 3 minutes away from all of a sudden being back. You know what I mean?
And navigating those ups and downs. It's got to be tough.
And that's one of the beautiful things about this business. I mean, my dad asks me, he's like, "Do you ever wish you'd become an engineer, or you want to go back and do what you were doing before?" I was like, "There's the thrill of knowing, like you said, that a 3-minute song can literally change my life again, and it has time and time again." And there's very few businesses where where that exists that way. I mean, for athletes, it's not that way. Like once your body gives up, that's it.
Yeah,
so,
man,
like,
this is a career that, my buddy Eric Woods, he played for the Buffalo Bills. He told me something one time when he just retired. He was like, man, music, if you have some hits, you can play till you're 80 years old.
Forever.
You know what I mean? Like they can put a bar stool underneath you and a chair to, lean you up on. You can still do it. He's like, when you're an athlete, you got a window.
Yeah. It's over,
and that
it's
window
over.
of time, you got to make the most you can, make the most impact you can in money and, your who you are, not character, but, your position. And then also try to set yourself up for when that 10 years is done or 13 years or whatever for out of it. I never thought about that until he pointed out. And also he was going through his, he had just retired. And I was like, man, that's so true. We do get the option to reinvent ourselves or to pull back for a little bit, write that song,
for sure.
make that art that we want to make and have it out there, and it changes your life, completely.
Yeah, I can vouch for that. It happened a lot sooner to me because of my talent level. But I mean, I was a college baseball player and got a minor league deal and was in the minors for a couple of years, and then realized that everybody around me was better than me, and probably a good idea for me to find a different career path. But being an athlete up until 24, 25 years old, my whole life, it was really tough to reconcile the fact that I wasn't going to be a baseball player, and not just that, I wasn't going to be an athlete. I wasn't going to be like sports wasn't going to be my thing.
Right.
When it had been my thing my whole life. It got me to college. It got me out of college. It had carried me so far, and it wasn't that my body gave up on me. It was that my body wasn't able enough, to keep up with the talent level around me. Wasn't big enough, wasn't fast enough, wasn't strong enough. And that's tough, it is fortunate in the music business that you have the opportunity, because like even at 25, like you would think at 25, I'd still have a chance to, but you don't.
Right.
Like I can't make myself 6'2" and throw 95 miles an hour out of the hole at shortstop. Like I can't make myself do that. And there's no amount of work or, time and effort I can put in to make it happen. And in this business, like I think most of the people that don't quit usually succeed.
Yeah, man. You just got to show up, show up to the right, show up to the show, do the thing, and just continue on, find it and learn to love the fight of it.
Yeah.
Like it's, and I've had not for a long time and now I have a new love with it. You know what I mean? Like the journey of it, there's a journey there instead of the, setting your emotions on the highs and the lows. Because if that's the case, you're never going to be stable. Like
it's definitely not for the faint of heart.
No,
either.
dude, no. Like you're going to be,
you take a beating emotionally and mentally. So
also, isn't it weird now watching sports that we're older than the athletes and they
Oh my gosh. What's so weird is like, look, like some of my idols' kids are now professional athletes. They're not just college athletes. They're literally in the NFL or the MLB. And I'm just like, bro, like I have a buddy of mine from high school that I played baseball with. His kid is pitching for the Brewers now.
Wow.
And I'm just like, bro, that's my buddy's kid.
Yeah.
Like he's done grown a full adult human that's pitching in the major leagues. I'm fucking old. It sucks.
You look there like, so-and-so just signed a $220 million deal, and he pops up and he's like 22, and I'm like, God, thank you for that. I thank you for not doing that for me, actually, because I'd be dead.
Oh my gosh.
Same.
Like
$220 gave 22-year-old me $220 million.
Yeah.
I'm not making it to 23.
Yeah. God was like, don't do that for him.
But it'd have been a hell of a year.
It would have been.
It'd have been one hell of a year.
I almost wound up in the ground and got a couple $100,000 out of it. So I can't imagine.
I was like, let's just see what he does for that, and definitely do not send him $220 million.
No, God knew what he was doing with that.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Well, hopefully, means something better is to come down the road.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, dude, we'll be looking. Please, the audience, please looking for stuff from Michael Ray, because I think we're going to get a new and improved version.
Yeah,
man. See it.
I'm really excited for all the music coming out.
We're excited to
everything that's going to be happening.
See where it takes you, man. I'm proud of you too, man.
Appreciate
It's
it,
I've seen you come a long way over these last 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
And having this conversation with you today just kind of lets me know, like, yeah, that dude's he's got it. He's got it figured out.
Thanks,
man.
And I'm trying,
bro. It's really hard to get it figured out in life. And you don't have everything figured out, but like you have you figured out.
Yeah.
And that's fucking the first place, the starting spot.
But then you also learned that you never really have yourself figured out. It's a constant journey.
Well, that's the figure.
But being open to growing and trying to figure that out,
that's
the process. That's what makes it so beautiful.
Just being better tomorrow than we are today. You know,
no doubt, man.
Most stressing upon yourself.
Thanks for coming on with us.
Thank you guys, man.
We appreciate
Let's do it again.
Hell yeah. Pleasure. Absolutely.